Well, welcome, heroes, to John and Jacob's podcast. I'm Jacob.
I'm John.
Man, I like that we went opposite order for that first round.
Yep.
That was good. And just to give you a little headset about ourselves, we are just two fellow nerds who love pop culture. And basically, we're just here to entertain the masses. Hopefully, you're one of those people. And we just share our thoughts and opinions on things that are going on, nerd news, retro stuff. Back today, we'll have some fun debates here and there. And we welcome you aboard. And, we hope to entertain. So I guess with our intro out of the way, I guess we need to assert ourselves
Absolutely.
as nerds because it's easy nowadays just to put on a superhero shirt.
Yep.
But now we need to get our medals here. So I figure we just go easiest thing to do is just listing our favorite things like we did when we were
Absolutely.
in grade school. And we'll start with you. So why don't we
Okay.
we'll do comic book heroes first, and we don't take sides with. Well, I don't know. Maybe later on. Like we never,
Yeah.
because I don't know if we ever established if you were a DC or Marvel fan. I don't think you ever know if I'm DC
I
or
don't.
Marvel.
Yeah. It depends what I'm watching. It depends what I'm reading. Depends who's writing it.
Yeah, you're all true.
All right, we're gonna go DC first, right?
Okay.
All right, DC first.
Yeah, just for let's do alphabetical sake.
Do you want to do heroes and then we'll talk about the villains?
I think so.
Okay.
Because as you know, a hero is always good as his villain.
Absolutely. So let's go. I feel like cliche. It's Batman.
Okay.
Um, because Batman is the hero that we can all aspire to be because yes, he's rich, but minus that, he is just another human being. He's another man. He's fighting, to use the term loosely, he's fighting gods. He's fighting abnormalities. He's fighting everything, and it's just him and his utility belt,
Mm-hmm.
and his wits. Whereas, you know, you've got Superman, you've got Green Lantern, you've got all those guys that have all this power. He does not have all that, but yet he's still the most threatening member of the Justice League for the fact that he has his own disk drive on how to take out every single one of them if they decide to go
Right.
bad. Yeah, Batman.
Okay. And we're referencing Tower of Babel, which is a great JLA story if you ever get a chance. And it's also they made a movie on it. What's the title of it? I think it was like Death. Was it Death of the Justice League? Or was it?
Oh yeah, no.
I can't remember.
That one was very good too, though. Cause yeah. Let's not spoil it.
Yeah, of course. No. So you know what? We're gonna sound like two peas in a pod. But for me, it's also Batman. I know. But I'm not wearing the shirt. But I promise. I promise I am. I'm gonna piggyback off of you for the
Okay.
same reasons you listed. There are other characteristics that I love about Batman. One is, like you said, yeah, even though he's rich, he is like still he doesn't have any superpowers.
Yep.
I mean, so people are like, well, why does that make him a superhero? But he's to the peak,
Mm-hmm.
everything. Superhuman strength, wit, intelligence, greatest detective.
Yep.
But also, I'm going to reference off of Mask of the Phantasm,
Mhm.
which is a great Batman movie.
Yes.
Some would argue it's like the best representation of Batman in theatrical media. Again, that's up for debate.
I mean, Kevin. Oh, what's his name?
Conroy, Kevin
Yeah.
Conroy, yeah,
I mean, that's Batman.
yeah.
I mean, you hear the voice and it's Batman. So
That's true. Every time I read a comic, it's his voice
Yep,
that comes
absolutely.
out.
Yeah,
Even
not
young
Christian
Batman.
Bale. No.
No, it's
Absolutely.
But there's a great scene in Mask of the Phantasm where he's young Bruce Wayne before he becomes Batman, and he's like at his parents' grave. So for the very uninitiated, I'm probably only talking to two of you. The whole point of Batman is that his
All
parent-
one of you.
a one, but you never know. We got to reach that one person.
Absolutely,
That one
absolutely.
person. So the point of Batman is that yes, he's a millionaire, but when he was 8 years old, his parents were killed in an alley, and that shaped his whole future. Which is it's a tragedy, but it's a great symbol for him. A mirror to his villains,
Mhm.
whereas he takes his tragedy and it says, "I never want this to happen to anyone else again." His
Mhm.
villains take the tragedy and it kind of like the victim card. like the woe is me, but now like okay, I'm gonna punish society, whereas Batman
Hmm.
wants to help society. So with that being said, going back to Master of the Phantasm, there's a great scene. It's an older Bruce Wayne before he becomes Batman. He's at the grave of his parents, and he's just pleading with them. He's like, he's found a life outside of being Batman, but he made the promise, like,
Hmm.
hey, I'll take, Terror Gotham again, like I said, making sure this never happens to anyone else again. But it's like he found happiness.
Hmm.
He's like, do I have to do this? And then he thinks he's out of it. But then through circumstances that I won't spoil in the movie, he becomes Batman.
Hmm.
But it's always that thing of he doesn't have to do it, but he chooses to,
Hmm.
which they kind of touch on in Batman Forever as well.
Yeah.
They touch on that point.
What I loved is there was a it's not really a quote, but it's a synopsis of the backstory behind a hero and a villain are the same thing. It's loss, it's tragedy, it's something taken from them. The difference is the villain looks at it as humanity and society has done this to me, I will take out my revenge. Whereas a hero looks at it and says, I will make sure that my tragedy never becomes to anybody else again. And that's a perfect cue of Batman.
Hmm.
I will do my best to make sure that this doesn't. But all right, flip
Yeah.
side to that,
Yeah.
he doesn't kill any of his villains. So Joker keeps on going out and mass killing people.
Isn't that
I'm sorry, like that. It's just
Well, that's the joke too. Is that as Arkham Asylum, which is where the main Batman villains go to, like your Jokers, your Riddlers, all
Mhm.
that stuff. They go to Arkham Asylum, but their joke is that it's basically a revolving door. Like they go in, they're just like. I think that's the thing too. They've hit on that in a couple of Batman episodes, like when Joker gets captured in one of the episodes. I think it was Joker's Million. He's like, I'll let the taxpayers flip my bill again. I'll just go back in. But yeah, it's that point too. Well, it's weird. We'll touch on this a little bit because you were saying the killing rule. If you watch any of the live action Batman movies, going back to Batman '89, Batman
Mhm.
Returns, even Batman v Superman,
Yep.
I think in the Snyder cut they didn't have him kill people, but I don't know if in the original one. Oh, I can't remember. It's been a minute, but
Yeah, Batman v Superman. He definitely killed.
oh yeah, he killed people.
Yeah,
But
that was a lot of deaths.
I think too when it like people that rule and which I do think is the majority rule. Like you read the comics and you
Yeah.
go to the animated series, like yeah, that's Batman. Like the no killing rule. The Nolan verse kind of played with that a little bit,
Yeah.
but it was mainly the Burton movies and Zack Snyder's take on it. But in that sense of the character, you would believe like you look at again Kevin Conroy's Batman. You even go to well, no, I don't want to even like even uh, Val Kilmer's Batman from Forever. But there was I don't want to spoil it, but he lets someone die in that one at the end.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, where it's
Yeah.
like yeah, but it was circumstantial. Well,
Yeah.
that one will leave way to circumstantial.
Yeah.
But for the majority of it, it's like yeah, Batman does kill. But if you see those Batman, it's like yeah, that Batman would kill. Like I get it. So my rule, and yours too,
Yeah.
was like the traditional Batman character does not kill.
Yeah.
However, if it's within the world, it's permitted. Like this world
Yeah.
says he can, then he can. But at least he's not like Punisher about it.
No.
He's not like going around with Uzis and
Yeah.
AK-47s and taking dudes
Even
out.
though Punisher was able to do the penance stare from
Yeah.
Ghost Rider and did not.
Yeah,
He
just
had
yeah.
no regrets from all the people because he only hunts bad guys,
Right.
and so he has no guilty conscience for what happens to those guys.
Right.
So, all right, villains, you go first.
Okay, well, I'm going to be the mirror, the opposite coin.
Okay.
For every Batman, there must be a Joker.
Okay.
And to me, that's the antithesis one. Like, sure, along the same lines as Batman, doesn't really have any superpowers, but this guy, his thought process. There's one comment. I want to say it was Arkham Asylum, happiest house on earth. Yeah, it was something like that. It was a graphic novel. They go into the psyche of one of the issues. They went to the psyche of Joker, saying he has super sanity, whereas you and I perceive regular sanity, right and wrong.
Okay.
His sense is like way above that. Like there is no justice and just all this stuff, and that's the mark of the character. Why he's the Joker is that everything is a joke. Like yeah, sure, he's a clown, but there's no right and wrong. The fact that there is injustice in the world means there is no justice. The fact that innocence can be taken away means there is no innocence. So in his mission is just basically to Moriarty Batman as if he were
Yeah.
if Batman were Sherlock Holmes, is that he always wants to prove something to Batman or to
Hmm.
the world, whether it be through killing as many people. Like he doesn't care again,
Yep.
does not care. Um, Again, no superpowers to speak of, but you amongst all the things going on, there's people way stronger with
Yeah.
abilities,
Yep.
both on Earth, in space, deities, all this stuff. But even they are just like very hesitant to kill
Hmm.
this guy or to do
Absolutely.
anything with them. And again, going back to what you were saying about Kevin Conroy as Batman, when I read the
Okay.
comics, it's Mark Hamill's
There we go.
Joker.
That was gonna be
As
my
a,
question: is who is your
oh,
Joker? I mean, it.
he overall was my definitive. Again, like when I read the stories, it's his voice coming to the page. I do, however, because we were talking about live action Batmans, I don't have a favorite live action Batman yet.
Okay, okay, that yep. I was gonna go back a little bit, and because I started thinking about all the different Jokers, and I was like, okay, well, how about all the different Batmans?
Right. I
Um,
do.
Go ahead.
I do have for Joker though my live action. I gotta give it to Heath.
Yeah, yeah, hands
Um,
down, hands down.
Even though recently Walking Phoenix did that was a spectacular job, spectacular movie.
It was,
It's a
it
hard one to
was.
watch because if you go into the Joker Joaquin Phoenix movie, it is a character study movie, and it's not
Hmm.
like this is the definitive origin of the Joker,
No,
which
no.
that well, I'll kick on this too. The closest one we've had is the story of the Killing Joke, which is one of the best Batman Joker stories you can
Yes,
ever read. But even in that,
it's brutal.
it is
It
brutal.
is brutal.
At the end of that story, he's talking with Batman, and he's given an illustration of to what his identity could be. It doesn't say his name when they because they do flashbacks on his character
Hmm.
in the story. But even at the end, he tells Batman, he's like, sometimes the famous quote is, "Sometimes I remember it one way, sometimes another. If I ever have an origin, I want it to be multiple choice." And that's kind of what we got with the Ledger version. The Ledger version was this character who came in out of nowhere.
Yep.
I love the fan theories that go into like who this character like is within the movie. Not like they got a name for the
Yeah,
character,
no,
but
no,
just his
no. But like
backstory.
he was like a soldier with PTSD.
But yeah, that's one
That
of the
that was
famous
one of the ones that I
theories.
liked.
And it makes sense
Yeah,
if you go back and watch the movie.
because that's how he had all the experience with the demolition and the explosives and how to use a weapon and how to use automatic weapons. To be proficient in all of those things, you had had to have dealt with them
Right.
before.
Even
So
the interrogation tactics. As
yeah,
I say, not just coming to him, but him
yeah,
reciprocating that.
you never hit with the head because
Yeah,
then I get all fuzzy.
fuzzy.
You
And you
know.
smash him with the hands. He's totally fine. He's
See,
great.
I didn't feel that.
See? Exactly.
Yep, yep,
Oh,
yep.
such a great scene. So as a live action version, that's don't get me wrong. Even before that, Cesar Romero, he was the '60s
Yeah,
one,
absolutely.
and he fits '60s. He fits Adam West's Batman world. It totally fits.
Yeah.
And then I know Jack Nicholson paved the way in '89,
Yes.
and he, by all means, he was the standard for a bit until I would say I'll give it to Hamill first because he was the voice. And you
Mhm.
had, and to Hamill's strength, you had this animated character that it's easier to represent that, and then go back to comics and kind of like
Yeah,
back and
that
forth.
the voice that he did was so brilliant that even for the cartoon animation could not keep up for what his voice was doing.
Mhm.
And that's why just with the vocal alone he painted such a picture that even if you close your eyes and just listen to it, you could you if you hear it you can see it, or if you see it you can still hear it.
Mhm.
And it's because of the way that he did it.
Very true. But just yeah, for a live action standpoint, Heath has my favorite Joker. Just all the iconic lines. It fits the character while also doing something in Nolan's world that matches.
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
yes, yes, yes.
so for me, that's
Okay.
my definitive villain.
So to take a step back real quick, who's your favorite on-screen Batman?
You know, I'm gonna be bold.
Okay.
I'm gonna be bold. I know he's new.
Oh.
If Robert Pattinson, this trilogy, so the Batman movie, which that
Yeah.
again, it's in my top 5 Batman movies. If they
Yeah.
do it, I have a lot of faith in the direction it's going.
Mhm.
Because before he appeared, I freaked out like a lot of other nerds like us, and I remembered him just as Twilight, and I had to
Yep.
eat a big slice of humble pie the premiere night. I
Yep.
walked out of that movie. I was like, for what they were going with, he hit it, and
Yep. Agreed.
his voice matched because
Yep.
that is one thing to Christian Bale's Batman. I like his interpretation of Batman, but whenever someone like brings up the voice, I won't argue with them.
So one thing about the voice, though, come to find out, if you listen to the trailer for Batman Begins, Christian Bale, or was it Batman Begins, or was it The Dark Knight? He actually wanted more of a whisper from with the Batman voice. He did not want to do the dark, growly voice,
Mm.
and he wanted the same type of Robert Pattinson like whisper. And Christopher Nolan was like, "No, that doesn't
Mm.
sound good.
Okay.
So you have to growl it up." So it
Mm.
wasn't even like it was purely the director saying, "No, I see where you're going, but I don't like it."
Okay.
So I is it the best? No, but I feel like it's still so good that it's like, yeah.
My only thing with his interpretation of the character, I don't think it's against him.
Hmm.
It came down to Dark Knight Rises for me, only
Okay.
because not his performance, but just what they did with the Bruce Wayne Batman character.
Okay.
And again, without spoiling anything like that, to an extent, he had not been Batman for a while, which is fine.
Yeah.
But I felt like in that movie, of course, like when we saw the latest Batman movie, it took a lot of inspiration from The Long Halloween,
Yeah.
Scott Snyder's run on Batman, particularly Zero Year Batman. Um, so, and those kind of stories match together.
Hmm.
I felt though in The Dark Knight Rises, it was like a hodgepodge of too many things. Like they wanted to do Nightfall. I'm sorry, yeah, Nightfall. They wanted to do Nightfall, which is the story where Bane comes in.
Yeah.
Spoiler: breaks his back in that too.
Yeah.
Which I thought that moment on camera was fine. Like that was
Yeah.
great. The
Yeah.
fight
Oh, that fight.
that was fine. And
So
even
good.
I know we're derailed a little bit, but even Bane's character by
Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy,
Yeah.
it's fine. I like it.
I
Like
love it. Yeah.
it works fine. I just think he kind of gets sidelined at the end. That's my only gripe with his
Oh
character.
yeah.
That's my only gripe with his character. But my only thing is with Bruce Wayne is like at the beginning of Dark Knight Rises, they wanted to do a lot of Dark Knight Returns where he'd been retired for so many years. But then they wanted to do Nightfall, and
Hmm.
they wanted to do No Man's Land.
Yeah.
Which No Man's Land, I think is a really cool arc.
Hmm.
Even so cool, I have like the book novelization.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. They took a lot of stuff because it's shorter because the novelization for a long time. There's a lot of omnibuses of that one for sure. But basically, they did like Gotham City became a no man's land.
Hmm.
Government was allowed to go in, so it's kind of like how it is in Dark Knight Rises. And that could have worked just with that
Hmm.
and Nightfall.
Yeah.
I think it was they waited too long to bring him back. Like story wise, they were trying to go
I can see
for
that.
this is the reason why he's been out of the spotlight for as long as he had been. I just wish they didn't do that. I wish he was still going around as Batman, but the police were against him the entire
Yeah, I agree
time.
with that. I agree with that.
Like he has to like leave the crime scene like before, or they get there, they shoot at him, but he makes
Yeah.
this dramatic Batman escapes. But again, these are just all my theories. If you like the movie, by all means, like
Yeah.
of course, I'm not going to be like, how dare you? But this is my interpretation of it. I don't think it's a terrible movie because
No.
there's there's far worse. God bless George Clooney, man. Which speaking of that is the 25th anniversary this year of that. That's 20. Did you imagine that 25 years ago?
I don't
And
know.
even crazier, this year marks the 30th anniversary of Batman Returns,
Oh.
and that just came June 17th. Yeah,
So wait a second. So Batman Returns and Batman and Robin are only 5 years. No.
5 year before. Yeah, because
So
Batman Returns came out '92. Batman and Robin was '97.
so when was Forever?
'95.
Really?
Mhm.
I didn't realize it was that close.
Yeah,
I liked Val Kilmer's Batman.
I did too.
I thought there was nothing wrong with it. I thought,
I think he suits the story fine. I think
I,
it's yeah.
I feel like they tried to go overtly comic booky with the movie.
Mm.
And so like even the lines and everything. And I felt like it suited Forever fine. and then they just took another step off the deep end with Batman and Robin.
Yeah. Which
That suit doesn't need nipples.
it does not, but it wasn't forever though. You can't. Really
I know, but
you know what? They weren't as protruded. Do you notice
no.
that they weren't as protruded
And
in
like the
forever?
still shots of like as they're putting on the outfits,
Yeah.
like
Oh, it's so funny though.
it's so bad.
It
It's
is one of
so
those.
bad.
It is a blessing in disguise because if Batman and Robin didn't take as bad as it did, we may not have gotten the Nolanverse.
True. Very
So
true.
I'll take it.
Very true.
Okay, but for you, favorite DC villain?
So it ties into all of it. Bane is my favorite.
Okay.
It's because he is super strong, but he's also super intelligent. Kind of the same thing with Batman is with his intellect. So is Bane. Bane is able to track him down. He's able to figure out his identity. He's able to do the things that nobody else can do, and that's how he ends up breaking his back. And he's the one that breaks the bat. Is because he's able to do all these things. It's not just the physical capabilities of him; it's the mental with it. I feel like he is the direct opposite. He is Batman that is a villain. You know,
Okay.
like same. Now again, there's so many different forms of Bane. There's you've got the Venom, and you've got the luchador ones, and you have so many different versions. But yeah, and so going to like you were saying with Dark Knight Rises, I hated the way that they took him away at the end.
Yeah.
He literally found a way to not only break Batman but stow him away, to take over Gotham City, to rule Gotham City. To come to find out, he was all doing it because he loved this girl, and
Yeah.
come on, man.
That was a lot. When I saw the still of who like the villain was behind it all, they have that shot of that person.
And he's like looking at her like about to cry. It's like,
Yeah.
this man just blew up a football field. Sorry, spoilers.
Well, that was in the trailer. I think that's fine.
Yeah.
This is a trailer.
But like, come on, man. So
Yeah.
Bane is my favorite supervillain.
Well, going back to the Batman the Animated Series, what'd you think of that episode? Do you remember that episode that he was in?
That's the one where he beat him by super injecting him with the venom, right?
The way I was thinking of it, because Rupert Thorne, he was the big mob villain in the animated series, so he got tired of Batman. It was Batman again, and this is the time when they had Robin in there too, Dick Grayson's Robin, and they hired Bane, who was a mercenary.
Yes.
So he was, but he was the Hispanic one, whereas I think the one Hardy went with was more like a Middle Eastern type of character. But to be fair, like in the comics, he is more like South American.
Yeah, South American. Yep.
I'll tie that into the Batman and Robin. Man, we're gonna get a lot of that. But anyway, I'm sure you love that.
So here's the thing: was when I was a kid, Bane was always my favorite. So watching it in Batman and Robin, I was like, "Oh yay, my character's on screen," not realizing how much they butchered it. And then it's like, and then you get older and you're like, what did they do with this? Right. And then you get the Tom Hardy version, you're like, what did they do with it?
Yeah. Well, at least they didn't make him like a parrot the entire time. Monkey word. Like, so weird. But
so bad.
Man, I kind of makes me want to go back and watch that. I might throw it on late at night. Like, if I need something.
I feel like that needs to be a Mystery Science 3000 that we need to have an episode where we put it on and we just make fun of it the entire time.
Hey, I like this. I'm liking this brainstorming. I'm liking it.
It's time to freeze.
Oh gosh, please coming like just all the ice puns, all the ice puns alone. Drinking game alone. If you made that a drinking game, you would probably.
Oh yeah.
You're not surviving.
No, especially by the time you got to when they're all sitting in his hideout.
Yeah, singing White Christmas. Yeah.
No louder.
No, come on. And he's smoking a cigar too. I don't really know that. Well, I think they were playing that with the '60s version because there was the '60s version who could like weirdly smoke a cigar.
Yeah.
So, but you know what I like to think of Batman and Robin? I like to think of it as if Hot Topic, probably not Hot Topic now, not Hot Topic back then, like when we had to, but if Hot Topic now decided to like make a Batman movie that was based off the Burt Ward
Okay.
and Adam
Adam West,
West
yeah.
Batman, that's the one you would get.
Yeah.
And I was like, because Smashing Pumpkins plays at the end. They play the end is the beginning.
Oh no.
Yeah, they play that at the end.
I didn't even realize.
Yeah, that's the closing out song.
Wow.
Yeah, it's so crazy, but it's. I'll say this: if you've not seen this movie, like we've been saying, it's a movie you can just. I don't know if it's gonna hurt you as a comic book fan. Just be like, it is one of the worst ones you
have
can
to
watch.
look at it as satire.
Yeah, that's the one way you're gonna make it through. And then again, like we've stated, if it wasn't without that movie tanking like it did,
yeah,
Christopher Nolan may not have come along and
Very
saved
true.
the franchise. So
And he had to course correct so much that it's like, no, we're gonna have realistic.
exactly.
The Bat card.
Yeah, back credit card.
Never leave home without it.
Yeah.
Oh my God, so bad.
And he had millions on that. He had millions. So like,
how would you use it? How would you go to a grocery store and be like, and at that point, like, there's credit cards, but it's like, all right, what's your tender? And you swipe a Batman card. It's kind of like,
well, you know, Alfred probably looks at the bills anyways.
yeah.
Alfred would just be like, "Sir,
You can't get ice cream with the Bat card.
Why do you have your Bumble account linked? Why?" He was a great Alfred too, Michael Goff.
Yes,
He
yes.
was a great Alfred.
But so that was always the thing was, I always thought that he was the best, but then, like, because when they first said that Michael Caine was going to be Alfred, I was like, oh, he did such a good job.
What's that part?
I
I don't think there's been one bad interpretation of
don't
Alfred.
think there's been one bad one.
There's been people's opinions on who the best Batman is, which
Yes.
you know it's all fine with, but I've never met one person, even if they like an Alfred more than the other,
Man.
there's never been one bad interpretation. Even I'm blanking on the actor from the '60s, and even he
Oh,
does
yeah.
well.
Oh,
He does
yeah.
well now too.
The one thing that I'll give to the Nolan verse is all of the actual lines from those movies.
Mhm.
So I think that has to be my Batman. That's my favorite.
Mm.
If it's nothing but, you can say so many lines that actually have meat to them. You know, like, and especially from Alfred. What's the one where he said,
Some men just want to watch the world burn.
"Some men just want to watch the world burn." You always, what was it? You always have to fall to get back up.
Why do we fall? So that we can learn to get back up.
Like,
Yeah.
like those, like, of a Batman movie.
Right.
You know, like,
Yeah.
this isn't Braveheart. This isn't, these classic epics. This is a Batman movie, and you're getting these lines that are still stuck with you today. You either live long enough, or you either die a hero or live long enough to be the villain.
Right.
Batman.
Yeah.
I mean, what other superhero movie can you think that has that type of dialogue?
The only one I can think that would come close is the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies.
Yeah,
Spider-Man
yeah,
movies.
yeah. I can go with that.
Especially with the
Only
the
one,
dialogue.
too.
We don't talk about 3 on this. No, we're gonna talk about 3 at some point.
Yes, we will.
It might get brought up later. You never know. But yeah, just it's because I'm thinking of a character that's like the Alfred to Bruce, whereas like Peter had that to Aunt May.
Yeah.
They had I'm blanking on that actress name. I wish I
Yeah.
wasn't. But it's kind of the same heart.
Yeah.
I'd say would be behind what the Nolan, Bruce, and Alfred had, and it kind of touched on a little bit with the newer Batman with Andy Serkis's.
I thought that was brilliant too. Still, again, and I like that one too because it's going more of like a like MI6.
Yeah.
Alfred, which is even going to like that Pennyworth. I haven't watched the show, but that going to that Pennyworth where he was an operative with the British government. That type of stuff.
Yeah.
So, all right.
So we hit up DC.
DC's
heroes.
done.
I think we
Which-
got a good mouthful of that.
I love that we only touched like that much of
Oh,
DC.
Dead Touch of the. Oh, well,
Like,
we have more episodes.
I know,
This is
I
the
know.
first.
Yep.
It's just a taste.
Our,
That's a
our,
whole universe.
our loyalties lie
That's the whole
heavily
universe.
with Batman, but we
Even
love
though
them
the
all.
funny thing is, we gush about Batman so much, the DC, just the universe alone, it's written around Superman. There's so
Oh,
many
yeah.
things. We'll reference in later shows why he's kind of like the center focal
Yeah.
point of the DC. As much as we want it to be Batman,
Yeah.
it's really Superman.
Yeah.
But we'll touch on him later. We won't disregard
Yeah.
the Boy Scout.
Yeah, no.
But we've talked about DC heroes enough. I think now it's time we jump to the Marvel heroes.
Okay.
Um, do you want to take the realm on that? You want
All right. So, we going villain or hero first?
We'll do hero.
Okay, hero. Thor.
Yeah.
Thor's always been my favorite. They do so much with the character, and then even going from comics and movies, comics especially, it went from the thou King James version of speaking to so many different iterations of them. I think there's so much to that character that it's not just a Norse god. It's there's to quote Shrek, there's many layers, and then even the MCU Thor. Um, I love Chris Hemsworth as Thor. Um, I felt like they tried to go too serious with the Dark World, and now they've had to course correct with comedy. But I don't know how you could have done Thor realistically with the MCU and not thrown comedy in.
Yeah.
Like it's almost so serious that that's what Dark World did, and it was too serious.
Right. Yeah, because that is one of the MCU staples is the humor, which is perfectly fine.
Yep,
It
yep.
matches what they want to do because they don't just have to appeal to us comic fans.
Yeah.
That's the thing with movies is you have to appeal to everybody,
Yeah.
and that's that's the thing. Like whether it's a comic movie or a beloved sci-fi
Mm-hmm.
or any kind of franchise, you like being behind the helm of that. Like, yeah, you're excited at first, like, oh, I get to do this, but then you're
Mhm.
like, oh, if I get it wrong, you know what I mean?
Yep.
But going to instead of Thor, another interesting thing about his character again, it's mixing mythology
Yes.
with this world.
Mhm.
But I think it meshes really well, and it's really
Absolutely.
interesting. Again, going back to what you were saying about MCU, especially even with the first two Thors, I think the tones, Matt, like even though we're saying the second one, the Dark World, yeah, that one's kind of one of the bummers of the MCU, but it's not like I don't
If you
think
go
they
back and watch it, I don't think it's not as
It's not as
bad
bad.
as you remember it.
No.
It just didn't live up to the hype. What
Yes.
the problem was.
Especially with the villain,
Yeah.
Malekith, who plays like higher in, like at least for us that we know in the comics is a much more of a threat than he was in that movie. But again,
Yeah.
they were at that point too. The MCU was just like
We need to get.
we gotta have a villain, we gotta have him beat him, and then
We need the
they-
Infinity Stones, so
they
we
need
have
Infinity.
we have to lay the groundwork.
And if you think about it, they struck it really well with Tom Hiddleston's Loki. Like Tom Hiddleston's Loki, they found the perfect actor, in my opinion, to portray that character.
Absolutely.
I mean, you see his popularity. He's got his own show.
Yep.
And even that, it's curious to see what they do with him there. But all that to say with Thor, like you were saying again, comedy Thor. I gotta get you on to Johnny Cates' run of Thor. Yeah. I gotta get you. It's not your birthday yet, has it? As the time of this recording?
No, it's past.
It's past.
Oh yeah.
Did I get you?
Yeah, February. Yeah.
Did I get you present this year?
Yeah.
What did I get you?
I don't know. You got me something.
I got you something.
You got me something.
Oh my gosh. That's when you know where you know. Did I get you something for your birthday? I did. What did I get you? Oh my gosh, I'm sounding like my older relatives. What did I get you last year? I don't know. I got it somewhere.
I think it was a book.
Okay. It sounded like me. Because that was going to be my thing. I was like, well, guess who's getting like Donny Cates run? You know what? There is Christmas.
Yep.
Christmas coming up. I got to get you on the Donny Cates run because if you guys are not reading Donny Cates run of Thor, if you're kind of hesitant about this character, Donny Cates is one of the best writers working in Marvel right now because what he's done with his characters is that he takes something from past Marvel history and doesn't like just wipe it out. It's like, oh, this never happened because I want the character. He'll take little moments from their history and expand upon it in ways where you're like, I didn't know you could do that. Because, and this is the thing too, I think that you and I can agree with, like, whether the person is writing the character in comic book form, whether it be in movie form, as long as whoever's writing it loves that character,
Absolutely.
it shows.
Yep.
And this is the thing too with Donny Cates is that he's taken. There's funny stuff in the Thor comic book. Sort of on, yeah, it's sort of NCU. I'll throw one humor scene at you, just like so. There's at one point, um, Thor has Mjolnir and he flies it around. He throws it around the realms and lands on Earth, but lands somewhere. Of course, in the comic books, Tony Stark is not dead as Iron Man, but he sees Mjolnir sitting there, and before he goes back waiting, he takes out a Sharpie and he just writes on it like just to mess with them. I won't tell you what he writes because it's like a spoiler, but you see it and you see what Tony Stark has written on Mjolnir, and it just makes total sense. But it's humor.
That's awesome.
But he hits a lot of like dark tones, but not DC gets more of the red for being darker, but people
Yeah.
have not read or watched Punisher, Ghost Rider, or
Okay.
Daredevil. But they're dark for not for the sake of like, oh, we need a dark, but like it matches as long as it matches
Yeah.
the characters. Like
Yeah.
Batman is dark,
Yeah.
but there's kid interpretations like Lego Batman. It's
Oh
just a
yeah.
perfect
Yeah.
thing to introduce you. If you're not, I would say,
Lego Batman is one of the best Batman movies. It
it
is so good.
hit so many references when I was watching that. I didn't
Oh
think they would.
no!
Yeah, I was like, whoa, that happened. Like,
So good. So
um,
good.
but again, it's not everything has to be dark for the sake of being dark. I think what some people have with the DC universe, the movies right now. Uh, but that's it's just topic for another
Yeah.
day. But going back with Thor, like yeah, there are the comedic elements, and some people wish it was what they were doing with Thor now with Donny Cates, and
Mhm.
then the previous writer Jason Aaron, where he was able to work in the these and thous, but not have it seem like Thor was an oaf or something
Yeah.
like that. Which I think in MCU, this just what I would see. I don't think he's an oaf. Like
No.
they definitely did the fish out of water in the first Thor movie, but ever since then, like when he had to be on Earth,
Yep.
he's not like, oh, what is this? Like, I don't know. They've done marketing
Yeah.
materials making fun of that.
Yes.
And even it's
Mother, where art thou drapes?
yeah. Does mother know you weareth her drapes?
There we go.
You know? But again, it's Tony Stark snark humor.
Yes.
And it works totally fine.
Yeah.
I can't think of another actor to portray Thor at this point in time.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Um,
It's his. I mean, they did such a brilliant job casting many of these characters. Many of these characters.
yes.
That it's hard to
Yeah.
think about somebody else taking that mantle. I think they're going to do a good job with the Jane Foster Thor. But again, like we talked about before, it's one thing when you're not replacing Chris Hemsworth Thor with Natalie Portman. You are adding
Right.
her Thor to the mix.
Mm-hmm.
It's completely different.
Yes.
You know, it's with Spider-Man. You're adding Spider-Mans. You're not taking away Tom Holland to add in Tobey Maguire. You are adding Tobey Maguire. You are adding
Andrew Garfield.
Andrew Garfield. Like you're adding. Yeah. So that's my biggest thing is add to stuff. Don't take away from it. Because as soon as you take away from it, that's when the comparisons. Oh well, I didn't like him. I didn't like him. If you put them all together, nobody's going to complain.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right.
I must say with that.
Your hero, sir.
My hero. So it's a new hero.
A new
It
hero.
used to be one for a long time.
Okay.
Until this character, this is the one I'm gonna say has been around for. He's been around for a little bit.
So who was your favorite?
It was Spider-Man,
Okay.
and the reasons why is that again Peter Parker, Spider-Man, totally relatable character. He was the nerd. Even when he was first being written, Stan Lee was like, "Hey, let's take a character that kids can have, like a teenager,
Yeah.
but he's not a sidekick,
Yeah.
and have him be the hero."
Yeah.
And it was a concept we were all like, "You can do that," and it was great. And again, Peter Parker, like even now, everyone has their favorite again live screen interpretation, just like with Batman. But I feel each one does their film justice
Yes.
in each
Justice,
one
yes.
they're in. So that being said, it used to be Spider-Man, but is now going on to what would have been anti-Spider-Man, but it's Venom. Is my favorite MCU hero.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Uh,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
that's a throw
Yes.
left career, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So you're if for those playing at home, you're like, why Jake? That's he's like a monster. He's like so. To go through the publication just of Venom, just very
Yep.
shortly. So in the '80s, yeah, it was '80s. They had Secret Wars where
Yes.
Spider-Man got the black suit.
Yep.
It was the alien symbiote that attached to him. But as the story went on, it started changing his personality to like angrier. Even so far, he didn't kill any of the villains, but he was like he definitely
He
went
got
more extreme.
went closer to that edge
Right.
than Spider-Man would ever have thought.
And there's a character they were building in Spider-Man's lore at the time, which is Eddie Brock, who's the
Mm-hmm.
original Venom.
Yep.
And at the time, when Spider-Man gets rid of the alien costume and latches on to Eddie Brock, who already has a vendetta against Spider-Man,
Yep.
it latches on him, lets him know who Spider-Man is because the symbiote, this alien creature, knows
Mm-hmm.
Spider-Man's secrets. So there's always been this rivalry between the 2
Mm-hmm.
Like it's been Venom trying to kill Spider-Man. Spider or Venom has threatened Mary Jane, and that's
Mm-hmm.
why Spider-Man, for a long time, has had that rivalry with Venom. And then they threw in bigger threats for Spider-Man to still not like Venom,
Yeah.
but for him to be like, okay, I gotta tolerate this guy for a second. But then as soon as the fight's done, he's just like, okay, man, we got a peace.
Yeah.
What made me change over to him liking him as my favorite now it is. I'm going to reference Donny Cates again, who is no longer on the Venom book. He's
Yeah.
currently writing Thor and Hulk,
Mm-hmm.
and he actually that's another thing. To this writer's credit, it's not that I ever hated Thor or
Yeah.
Hulk. I just didn't find him as interesting, and
Mm-hmm.
I need to go back and pick up all the Jason Aaron run
Mm-hmm.
because before Cates came along, that is
Mm-hmm.
considered the best Thor run.
Okay.
But to his credit, again, taking things from history but not wiping them out, Donny Cates, the
Mm-hmm.
writer, he took things from Venom's past, but again, not explaining, expanded upon it to where in the comic books, Venom has a son that he
Yes.
didn't know about. And it
Yes.
became kind of like this Darth Vader, Luke
Yeah.
Skywalker vibe. And
Yeah.
watching Star Wars as a little kid, I vibed with that really hard.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what brought my love over to this book is that even though Venom he's done questionable stuff in the past. At one point,
Again, which one? Like
yeah,
like you said, the beautiful thing about Venom is that it is a symbiote. So like when he went to Matt Gorgon, which was the Scorpion,
yes,
he was a cannibal and would eat people
mm-hmm.
and was horrible. And that's where Eddie Brock. I think that was a story run where Eddie Brock, because he carried the symbiote for so long, he actually became anti Venom.
He became he had cancer,
Yep.
and then anti venom formed off of that, and then again through comic book history, which escapes me at the moment. It actually latched on to Flash Tompkins,
Thompson. Yep.
Thompson,
Yep. 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 Yep.
who was Peter Parker's bully in high school, who became a soldier.
Yep.
And the great thing about that is that he was a huge fan of Spider-Man, and that's why he joined the military
Yep.
because he wanted to be a hero like Spider-Man. And so, in his military career, he loses loss of his legs, and at
Yep.
that point, I believe it was Shield that captured the Venom symbiote,
Yep.
and they were going to use that for Flash Tompkins, who became Agent Venom at that point.
Yep.
If you guys ever look at the art of that, really great costume,
So good.
so cool,
So good. It's
Um,
Punisher meets Venom.
Exactly.
Like
Goes into space with Guardians of the
Yep.
Galaxy at
Yep.
one
Yep.
point.
Yep.
Really fun run. I would definitely recommend it.
Yep.
That's when the symbiote kind of changes its ways too, because
Mhm.
Flash Tompkins like inputted this thing of like, hey, it kind of like how Tom Hardy's interpretation of Eddie Brock in the movies is like, hey, you can't eat people all the time,
Yep.
and all this. He kind of instilled the symbiote to not do that anymore to become actually a hero. And then when it finally latches back onto Eddie Brock,
Mhm.
it's taken Brock's history, so now they become like the lethal protector.
Yeah.
In the sense of like, yeah, they'll pummel dudes.
Yeah.
I think they would only he may have only eaten like the real we're talking like the baddest of bad, like serial killers,
Mhm.
etc. The worst. But it was that point before Donny Cates took it. It was kind of like these wacky adventures. Like there's
Yeah.
dinosaur people that live underneath
Yeah.
New York. So it was fun, don't get me wrong, but it didn't make me. It made me like still like the character, but he wasn't my favorite. But like I said, it wasn't until this run with Donny Cates, his entire run going from
Did he do Venomverse?
He did not do Venomverse. That was
Okay.
before. That was right before he jumped on.
That
But
makes sense.
Venom, but
Venom was so good.
yeah, Venomverse is a ton of
So
fun.
good.
It's the book kind of that leads before Donny Cates took over the
It,
title.
it did have a lot of comedy, but it did have so much because with the Venomverse, who were the ones that was the parasites?
Yes. Man, you know what? Well,
So I believe that he's
Well,
gonna check. I believe it was these parasites, and their whole goal was that they wanted to kill off all the symbiotes, and so all these different, because in so many different universes, Wolverine had the symbiote, Doctor Strange had the symbiote, Rocket Raccoon had the symbiote. Well, and then um, Eddie Brock gets taken to this place because they're like, if we do not take out these people, they're going to wipe out all of us. And so it was something like as soon as they hit him, they would take the
yeah,
symbiote.
yeah. They basically they kind of ate the symbiotes. It was
Yeah.
like they were the predators to the
Yes.
symbiotes. Of course, you try to look up one thing, you get are they poisons? I think they were just called kind of the poisons. That's what it
Yeah.
was.
Okay.
That's what they were. Kind of makes sense. Venom and poison.
Yeah.
Life is on. But that was right before Donny Cates got uh, writing the book.
So he took it over, and was that Null was right?
Yes,
Yeah,
that's where
so
Noel
good.
comes from. He expanded on the history of symbiotes as
Yes.
how, and then that's where we got maximum. No, no, I'm sorry. Was extreme? No, maximum carnage was the beginning. Absolute carnage. The absolute carnage where Cletus Cassidy carnage comes back. That ties into Noel, but we also got King in Black where Venom fights
Yeah.
Noel. Just it
Yeah. Let's not
just
spoil it.
yes.
Check out, even if you're not the biggest Venom fan, check out the what is it, the something in black,
King in Black.
King in Black.
King in Black.
So good, and it actually ties into the new Thor movie
Yes.
because Null was the god of darkness, and so he has this black sword that he ends up fighting a golden knight, and that black sword is the same sword that Gore has that he's going around killing all these gods with.
Exactly.
We'll leave it at that.
We'll leave it
But
at that.
that's a nice little teaser
It is.
into Thor.
It is.
Um,
Yeah, so with all that said, he's just I've
Yeah.
always liked characters with anti Spider-Man, but now he's like a father figure. He's
Yes.
trying, and that's the whereas Hulk has that was always kind of like the rage of Bruce Banner inside. The monster he's always fighting is the one that's on the inside. I always pictured the Venom symbiote was like your life circumstances that just attach to you. So you either
it energized. Yeah.
you either make the best of what you have and utilize it to help out others, which I think that I mean this is why I like the character, and of course
Yeah.
everyone has their own. But this to me personally, that's why I like because now Eddie Brock is a father, he's got to protect his kid, and it's such a great dynamic that the two have.
So good.
Again, there are dark moments in the book, sure, but it's you're dealing with an alien creature that used to eat people, and again fighting a serial killer symbiote that does eat people.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's from that. Just go back, or if you get a chance, um, your local comic book store or Amazon. I would
Yeah.
highly recommend it, like Donny Cates' Venom run. I don't think they have the omnibus yet, but once it comes out, even they'll probably split it in volumes. Like even a lot of times, I'm getting those volumes, dude. I will proudly hang those on my shelves.
Yeah.
So okay, so we did
Heroes.
Now to switch over to the dark side.
So the problem with the dark side for me is that my favorite villain is Venom.
Oh, we're going.
So I
Okay.
almost like you made such a bold statement about him being a superhero, even though he was also a supervillain. You're gonna have to take it because now I have to think of an actual
Okay.
truthful villain that's always been a villain.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So who's your
so,
villain
okay,
as
all right.
as
That's
I'm-
your thing? Okay.
Yeah.
No, okay. Within the same world, whereas you had Venom, who started out as a villain, became the hero. This is a Spider-Man villain who's still remained a villain. And I'm going with Green Goblin. So some might say might be his arch enemy. It's usually a toss up between him and Doc Ock. For me, the reason why I picked Goblin it was that antithesis of, again, going back with like Batman and Joker. This was kind of like Marvel's version for me,
Hmm.
where you had someone, yeah, sure, Goblin doesn't have web, shooter, spider like abilities, but it is someone with powers
Hmm.
that misuses them, and this person has a hero against them that uses, it's a class, heroes versus powers are good. But the thing is, though, he's like Lex Luthor from DC, but he's crazier. Like you could
Yeah,
argue like Lex Luthor like does like crazy, but there's always like something to it. Like
I feel like he's
there's a
actually.
method to the madness,
So,
whereas like Goblin is just madness.
so are you combining um, Norman Osborn Green Goblin, or are you just saying Green Goblin?
Well, I think the Goblin formula too, because yeah, you're talking with Harry Osborn.
Well, no, I'm going to like Norman Osborn. So
Okay.
like, because even if you're going to like Civil War, then into like Dark
Mm,
Reign,
mm,
he was the Iron Patriot.
right.
You know, he became it was the president, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, they made a deal. Yeah, with the American government. Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
So
His
like
was
like you're talking about this evil dude who you
mhm,
know.
mhm.
So like
Uh,
so is it just the
oh,
Goblin or is it Norman Osborn slash Goblin?
I'm gonna do Norman Osborn slash Goblin because there's been instances where he lost his goblinness from that, and the reason why I say that is because for a little bit he was just playing Norman Osborn, and he didn't like that. He wanted the
Okay.
goblin, so but it got taken out of him. I think it was actually during. I could be butchering this, but it was the Superior Spider-Man arc. I think that's what happened. Was that
Okay.
at some point he got that taken away from? I don't want to spoil that. I'll retract that statement. But he gets it taken away from him. But he, instead of being like, I'm gonna go do good now, he wants it back. So he's
Okay.
wanted. So at one point, he finds the Carnage symbiote. That Shield, man, Shield just like holds on to things very
Yeah.
easily. He gets it from Shield, steals it from them, and he and the symbiote match to become the Red Goblin, which is something you
Yeah.
guys should
Yeah.
definitely Google search. That's also one of my favorite
Yeah.
Goblin designs in general. That thing is so
Yeah. So
wicked. I
good.
love it. But it's that madness in him mixed with the Carnage symbiote, where he's like, "I'm back! Like I'm
Hmm.
doing, Norman Osborn's back, baby!" And there was a great. I'll spoil this because, yeah, of course, Spider-Man always wins in the end. But the way he gets the symbiote off of Norman is he's like, "Yeah, you're fighting with the Carnage symbiote. Like that's not you. You're fighting kind of like you're just super juiced." And so
Uh,
he gets like the Carnage symbiote is just like, what are you talking about? Like, we fought it like 1,000 times, but the Norman Osborn inside, kind of like how Eddie Brock and Venom symbiote talk to each other. He's like, no, man, take a hike. Like, this is between me and him. And so he gets the Venom or the Carnage symbiote off him, and he fights again as Green Goblin and Spider Man,
mm,
which was a really cool scene. But that to me was like, okay, if this person was a billionaire but was just crazy strong, just
mhm.
crazy in general, like he's intellectually there, but instead of like the Joker like trying to force the world to his viewpoint, Goblin is just like, I hate Spider-Man. I hate him so much. His life's mission,
Mhm.
much kind of like Lex Luthor's is to Superman. It's
Mhm.
like, I just want to take this dude out. Like, if I take this dude out, I'm happy.
Yeah.
And not just killing him, but I'm going to ruin his life, the lives around him, like
Mm.
anyone who's attached to him, and that's just him. And some people go to Doc Ock because there's more of the scientist versus scientist, even though you can
Yeah.
kind of argue that, Norman Osborn is something of a scientist himself. That will never
William
get old.
Dafoe. William
And
Dafoe.
that's another good thing too. His casting, I can't imagine anyone else as
No.
Norman Osborn Green Goblin.
No.
They tried with another actor in Amazing Spider-Man, but he was only there in Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man 2 for just a bit, and then
Yeah.
they killed him off.
Yeah.
But they
That was
tried
the best
that.
part.
That version of the Green Goblin I was not a fan of. Was not a fan of New Goblin from Spider-Man 3. Oh, I didn't even touch on Venom from Spider-Man 3. I said
No.
that we were going to bring that movie around.
There's a reason why you mentioned that Venom from Spider-Man 3.
3. It's because I see what they were going for. Just to, well, I don't know. Maybe this is gonna be extra time to think of your villain, but just to hammer, just for going back to Venom
Mm-hmm.
and actually Goblin, we'll tie this in. That is so Harry Osborn in the comic books kind of dealt with his dad died, but of course we all know the rules in comic books. No one ever really dies.
Yeah.
But he took on the mantle of Green Goblin, had the same thing, was crazy, almost killed Spider Man. almost succeeded until Harry Osborn, like him, full of reason, like, no, what am I doing? Snaps out of it, saves Peter, but actually dies.
Okay.
Because we all know death does not mean anything.
Yeah.
Um, so that was kind of the redemption arc for Harry, but Norman doesn't really get that. Like Norman messes with Spider-Man all the time, just any way he can.
Yeah, absolutely.
But going back to Harry Osborn in Spider-Man 3 thinks that Spider-Man killed his dad and wants revenge, and is being haunted vengeance by his father. Takes the Goblin serum, becomes New Goblin, or the coolest airborne snowboarder you've ever seen. I always mentioned the gauntlet thing was kind of cool.
Yeah,
but they improved that. I like the improved.
Like
yeah, it pretty much was. It pretty much
I
was.
like that. Let's just go over to the studio and take it.
I love the gauntlet they got for Green Goblin in No Way Home.
Yes,
I loved it when he popped it out at the end too. The thing popped out. I was like, yes. I was like, yes. This is the great. That's another perfect casting. And he's actually, if we were ever talking about MCU favorite villains, he's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
That interpretation of that character. But yeah, Norman Osborn. His interpretation of Willem Dafoe nails it out of the park. And he too, I've started rereading Spider-Man comics with his voice.
Oh, yeah.
And it to me it sinks, which is funny. Like the live action matches the comic book, where I was going back to the old Spider-Man '90s show, and it's fine, but and even there was the Spectacular Spider-Man. I don't know if you've seen that. Oh, that's a criminally underrated show.
Okay.
It's just amazing. It's hard to find to watch though. I don't know if it's streaming anywhere. If you can find it, if you can find it streaming somewhere, definitely watch it. It's one of the best interpretations of Spider-Man and his Rogues Gallery in general. It's really good.
That's the thing about Spider-Man and Batman is the Rogues Gallery.
Yeah.
There's just so many villains, and they're so cool.
Yeah.
All right, I got it.
You got it.
I got it.
Okay.
All right. He's not in the MCU yet.
Ooh. Okay.
His way has been paved to come into the MCU. Let's see what other teasers can I give.
Well, yeah, I'm already on the edge of my seat.
He was a birth of the MCU Legacy Collection. He is one part of House of M.
Oh yeah.
Magneto.
Yeah.
That would be because again, going back to like we talked about before with what is a hero, what is a villain. He is the perfect example of the villain. This happened to me, but even going by that standard, he's still a hero in his own right. I am going to make sure that this does not happen to people again.
Right. But you know what? Yeah, like you're saying.
That's rough.
But to that point, to illustrate that, whereas like Batman, sure, he writes that line, but he never crosses it. Yeah. Magneto crossed that line where he's like, no, I'm right. Everyone else is wrong. I don't care who gets in my way.
Yeah. Again, I like him because he's like, even as a villain and doing the wrong thing, his moral code is still aligned with that I'm going to make sure that mutants do not have to suffer, and I will do whatever I need to make sure that mutants can survive.
Right.
Even though humans aren't even necessarily going against us, even aren't attacking us, I'm going to make sure that nothing happens, because for those who don't know, all three of you, we'll three on that one.
Three.
Magneto's background is that he survived the Holocaust when all of his family died. And so he wants to make sure that the people that he loves and that never happens to that again. But he will kill, maim, destroy, do whatever he needs to, even if that is taking out all of the humans, to make sure that mutants are the ones that can survive. So I like Magneto.
Well, do you have a favorite live action interpretation, or do you like both Fassbender and Ian?
I like Ian McKellen. They're both fantastic.
Would you say they feed well into the other? Because Fassbender plays the younger.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. I do love the lines Ian McKellen gets. There's from the first X-Men movie when he and Charles Xavier meet in the It's at the Senate. It's like a Senate hearing. He's outside.
Yes.
He finds them, and I always love that line where Charles Xavier's like, he's like, "What do you do with Eric?" Which is Magneto's real name, and he responds back. Magneto does. It's like, "Why do you ask questions to which you already know the answer to?"
Yeah.
And he makes that point to your point too, where he will do anything to make sure mutants survive. There's a line he gives at the end of their conversation where he says, "We are the future, Charles, not them," meaning humanity.
Mm-hmm.
They no longer matter.
Yeah.
And it's that line that Xavier's like, I don't know, like,
yeah.
But he's always there. That's the great thing about that relationship. It's not just like,
Yeah,
I hate you,
no.
I hate you, I hate you. Like your typical villain hero synopsis is like there's compassion from Xavier to try to reach out to his friend. And I think that strengthens.
And even Magneto too. Also, what was it? Days of Future Past,
Mhm.
um, when she kills Xavier.
Oh, you're thinking of
Was it
Last Stand.
Was that the Last Stand?
Yeah,
that was okay. The Last Stand.
Yeah.
Again,
Yeah.
it was better than Spider-Man 3.
Oh, and even I'll say the Phoenix movie that just came out.
That was the worst piece of garbage I've ever. I still won't finish it.
Oh, that's right. You told me.
Yeah, I think I started it once, got 30 minutes in it, and I was like, I'm good. And then I just, in my mind, I said, oh, I never started that. And I started watching it again, and I was like, nope, I did start this. I don't want to do this anymore.
You relived it again. You started bringing up the memories.
Again, I feel like The Last Stand wasn't as bad.
That's
going
saying
back.
something, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because that was the one where, like, oh. I just hope, though, because at some point they are going to be brought to the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to see the interpretation of what that could mean.
Yep.
I just hope it's almost like the Joker being in a Batman movie. It's like, don't get me wrong, I love the Joker. Like I said before, he's my favorite supervillain. I can do without him being the main focus of the story, which is why I liked the Batman.
Yeah.
Even though there's something at the end.
Yeah.
But who knows? We don't know where that leads. There's not a clear. The director's not saying like, "Yo, this is where we're going."
I would be fine if they even went with a Doctor Doom before a Magneto in the MCU. You know,
which is what we're gonna get because Fantastic Four is slated before.
We haven't gotten a Doctor Doom that actually lives up to the hype of Doctor Doom. Mm-hmm. Again, it's it's either a weird scientist that gets his powers, and then I didn't even watch the second Fantastic
Four stick.
Yeah, whatever that is. Yeah. I never watched it.
The latest one.
Yeah. So
you're not missing anything.
So again, like we've only gotten the one that wasn't good. Mm-hmm. So I feel like they can do him justice.
Yeah. But I mean, that's one of the most look forward things I have in the MCU. I'm just like, I want to see it. Once I see it, I'm hoping.
Okay.
Do we cover that? I guess we've talked a lot about. We've done movie and comic books because they blend into one another. Yeah. So with that being said, pop culture is not just limited to just comic books. What about favorite movie? Like, would you have a favorite movie and then maybe like a favorite comic book movie? Like
so, favorite movie. It was since I was a kid, and I still have to stay with Braveheart.
Okay.
Again, going back to Shrek with Layers, watching it when I was 8, 9 years old, and my dad was like, "I think you can handle this." Mm-hmm. Watching it then, taking in it all, watching it when I was a teenager, taking it all. And so there's one particular part when he kills Bruce Willis's wife. When I watched it,
Baby Mel
Gibson. Yep. What did I say?
You said Bruce Willis.
Bruce Willis. Oh,
that's a diehard Braveheart crossover. I'm sure there's a fan fiction out there somewhere.
Yippee-ki-yay.
or he was got a yippee-ki-yay Englishman.
Yes. When Mel Gibson's wife gets killed, as a kid, I didn't understand. As a young adult, I just got filled with so much rage. And then after being married, the rage with the heart-stricken comes into play. Like, it's a different type of rage when you're married to somebody.
Mm.
You know, so like there's layers to it. There's layers to when he talks about, you know, my wife was killed because I wouldn't share her with another man. You
Mm.
know, like
Yeah.
there's so much impact, and then of course just the action sequences, just the everything, even the lines talking about freedom. What would you give up for freedom?
Definitely one of the best movie speeches ever
Yes.
given.
Yep.
Dude.
Um, one of the best. I'm going to go back. I don't know if you remember this. Do you remember TBS when
Yeah.
they would make fun of like to do the little comedy bits with the monkeys?
Oh yeah, vaguely. Okay, we're pulling on way, but yeah,
Yeah. Okay. I'm showing my age. So
No,
you could probably go on YouTube
uh,
and you can look up, and it was about they would do these little sketches, and I think they did Forrest Gump, and they did all those
oh, it's starting
movies,
to come back to me.
and it was
Okay.
monkeys, and there was this
Yeah,
monkey
yeah, yeah.
dressed like Braveheart with the blue face, and they were making fun of when he was like, oh, William Wallace um, was 7 feet tall, and he goes, oh, I've heard, and shoots fireballs from his eyes and lightning out of his arse. So in the parody of it, like they're like lifting up their kilts and like shooting lightning out their butt,
Wow.
and so like it was so funny. But yeah,
Okay, I
go
gotta
go on
find that.
YouTube. Go on
I gotta
YouTube.
look that up later.
I think I remember one too where it was a monkey sitting on a park bench with like a box of chocolates or something.
I vaguely remember the Forrest Gump one.
Yeah.
When you said Forrest Gump, I'm starting to get images pulled from it. Yeah.
Yep, yep.
Because that's when it was TBS. Was that when it was TBS Superstation? Those
Okay. Yeah, probably.
yeah, because you go back to Die Hard, they did the weird edit of Die Hard 2. Instead of Yippee
Yeah.
they do Yippee Ki Mr. Falcon, and
Oh,
there's no Mr. Falcon in the movie, and he doesn't even like. It's not even Bruce Willis's voice. It's this weird someone
oh man.
trying to do his accent. It's so funny. You have to look that one. Okay, so
Okay.
that's your favorite
Yes.
movie.
That's my favorite movie.
I'm gonna hold off on me because I'm gonna let you do your comic movie because I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna cheat because mine is one and the same. A lot of people probably know, well, who know me know what it is, but
Comic book movie. Yeah, I think I know what yours is. Um, man. Um, so I could very easily go with yours, and I'm not going to.
uh,
Um, even though I've only seen it a handful of times, and
okay.
it is somewhat recency biased, I am going to do Spider-Man: No Way Home.
Ooh, okay.
I have not gotten chills and such excitement while watching a movie than when they open up the first portal and you saw Andrew Garfield, and it was like, oh my gosh, they're gonna do it. Because
Mhm.
again, they kept such under lids that it was like they have to, right?
Right.
Like
Yeah,
before the
yeah.
movie, you're like they have to have these guys in it, right?
Mhm.
Even though they're all saying no, we're not in it, you know, and like everybody kept it. It was like when you saw it, and then when you saw the second one open, I still feel it. Like it was like, and then you saw this back, and he turned around, and Andrew, I was just like, oh my god, they did it, you know.
Yeah.
And I still the emotions and the feelings coming from that. Um, that alone was some of the best cinematography. And then even when they're gearing up for that last fight, and they're talking to each other, even though they're the same person, but they're talking about each other's movies. It was brilliant. And then they did the whole pointing thing. Like
Mhm.
it was such fanfare that I haven't seen it done. Granted, there was a scope of it with the last Doctor Strange with the Illuminati,
Mhm.
finally giving us John Krasinski, John Halpert or Jim Halpert as Mr. Fantastic,
What
and
if like
giving
when
us
he came on, the Office theme picked
oh
up?
my
Like
god,
how like because everyone else was like because you and I were at that screen together, and everyone else was so excited. I can only imagine the Office fans if
yeah,
they had done that, you all would have like skyrocketed out of your seats. You were like, ah!
yeah, even like having in the background, even slowed it down, but like do
I
do 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 do
know,
do like yep
I'd be
yep.
like, yeah, let him have it. Like let him have it.
So yeah yeah, No Way Home.
Okay. All right, so I didn't want to go back and forth on that one because I was just like, well, I'll just do mine. and we've already talked about it a little bit,
Yeah.
so I'm not going to gush on it too much longer. But for me, it is The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Again, just the story itself.
Yeah.
It's so this is what I like about my comic book movies in general. Like, don't get me wrong, MCU doing fantastic stuff. It's actually like seeing this comic book style to a more broad audience. It's fantastic, and to keep it up for as long as they have, that's more kudos to them. That's amazing. What I liked about the Dark Knight, like it took even Batman Begins, which was it was this cool action adventure, but it still felt comic bookish in the end, like the way he has to save the city and this kind of thing. No, there's still comic book elements in this because it is a comic book property. But this is where I feel the character of Batman does the best. Like, it's cool when he hangs out with the Justice League and they all fight together, and it's cool when he takes on like the League of Assassins and Ra's al Ghul. He goes worldwide. That's all fine and good. It's when they do the crime stories that I feel like this is Batman is on it. Just like with the Batman movie that came, the recent one, where we got a true detective story. This one hinted at it a little bit. Granted, it's not a true detective story. It's more of a crime drama movie that happens to feature comic book characters in it. Great performances all around. Even though, like I've said, Christian Bale's Batman is not my favorite Batman. However, in this story, where the character is at, it fits. And going back to his voice, I will say this, like we've said it, or I've said it, is if someone argues like they don't like the voice, I get with his interpretation of the voice, I would not guess that was Bruce Wayne. You know what I mean? Like he's just so analytic guy. You would not guess like, oh, I think this guy fights crime at night. You know what I mean? Like you would be because some of them, again, the interpretations aren't bad, but you kind of hear the actor's voice in their Batman voice, whereas this one he just went all out, and I was like, yeah, I don't think that's Christian Bale.
Yeah.
And again, we've hit it with Heath Ledger's Joker, but also have to touch on the fact we did it too with Michael Caine's Alfred.
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry, Aaron Eckhart as Harvey Dent.
So good. So
good. And another standout is Gordon, who is played by Gary Oldman. Gary Oldman.
So
that to me, that's my favorite of the Commissioner Gordon.
Agreed. Tenfold. Yep.
I do like what they did. Jeremy
Irons.
Not Jeremy Irons. Yeah, Jeremy Wright. Jeremy Wright.
Yes.
Jeremy Wright.
It was good.
Batman. It was really good too.
It was really good.
He was a good solid one. He was a solid Gordon. But this one, it leads to, we have the classic Heath Ledger lines, and they're iconic for a reason. Yeah. They're great, fantastic. We hit on it a little bit with the Bruce and Alfred lines. Some of my favorite moments in in that movie don't have to deal with those characters. It's one of my favorites is when Gordon comes back to his family. He wakes up his son. His son looks at him, and I don't want to spoil this one because you got. I go watch it. That's your spoiler. It's just to watch it.
Yeah.
If you have not, he wakes his son up. His son is like groggy. He's like looking at him. He's like, "Did Batman save you, Daddy?" And he responds back, like, "Actually, this time, which is true. Yeah. I saved him." And I think about that line, like as a character in that world, or if superheroes did exist, how many times can you say to your kid and legit not be snarky, but like, "No, actually, I saved the hero. That was me." And then later on in the story, Alfred is talking with another character about a situation with Batman kind of giving himself up because the Joker's threatened to like kill. And then Alfred is talking with this character, and they're like, "Why?" This character knows that Bruce Wayne is Batman, and they're like, "Why didn't he reveal himself?" and all this stuff. And it's actually my favorite movie line out of all of cinema is like. Alfred says he went down to the press conference, and he says, well, because Harvey Dent is there, and he says, well, perhaps both Bruce and Mr. Dent believe that Batman stands for something more important than the whims of a terrorist.
So good.
Even though everyone hates him for it, that's the sacrifice he's making. He's not being a hero. He's being something more. And then he adds to the Batman character. That's why I like. It's like, yeah, you have this dude. He, dresses up, has the cool costume, the cool gadgets, the cool car, but he doesn't have to do it. Yep. And that's what I love, just in characters in general. This is going for everything. Is you have that character, like, yeah, they're in the story, they're gonna do it, but they don't have to. And that's why I always like when people like it goes like with superpowers, and that's kind of like my gripe with any character that's a superpower, is that at some point they will use it.
Hmm.
It kind of goes with Spider-Man with like great power comes great responsibility. But in my back of my head, I'm always like, well, he's going to use it at some point. For someone that doesn't have superpowers,
Hmm.
it's them just doing the right in their mind, the
Hmm.
right thing, how they can help the city. So that's why I love that
So
interpretation.
let's see. It's like that guy right there.
Yeah.
That guy right there.
Yeah.
So that guy right there, I feel like what Netflix did with his series is like what The Dark Knight was.
Mm.
You can have a cinephile watch The Dark Knight, and they will love it for it's a drama with superheroes, not a superhero drama.
Right.
Same thing with Daredevil.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much more context. There's so much more meat to it than just I'm a good guy, you're a bad guy. I'm gonna punch you in the face and throw you in jail. It is lives. It is so much more. You know.
Yes. And I would agree. And just as a small little rabbit hole, that's actually my favorite Marvel show. And
Yeah.
it is grittier. It is
Yes.
dark, it's harsh.
Yes.
But if you can stomach it, and if you're old enough and your parents say it's okay,
Yeah.
uh, I think we both would highly recommend that show. It's
Yes.
on Disney Plus right now.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny how you have to get to it with Disney Plus. You have to let mature content play,
Yeah.
so you have to have that setting. So sorry, kids, if you're parents, but maybe watch it with them, and then parents, you can determine whether or not
Yeah.
it's cool. I'd say it's definitely is more kind of like maybe in the 15, like
Yeah.
not really
Again,
13.
there was no sexually explicit stuff.
Right.
It's more of the violence and even the language wasn't.
I don't think like from my recollection, it wasn't that bad
Yeah.
that I recall. Yeah, because there wasn't like a lot of F bombs.
No.
I think the language was on par for like an MCU.
Yeah.
I want to say it was.
It's the
It's just the
violence.
violence.
Yes.
It's just more so the violence.
He's.
But Punisher's worse.
Oh yeah.
See,
Yeah.
but I think Punisher, they even do, if I'm thinking of the language, they even went further. I think,
Yeah.
yeah, they went
yeah.
further. But it suits the character.
But yes,
It
and it
all
suits
suits the
the show.
character.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
All right, so we've done that, but another thing.
All right. So you're next.
Okay.
All right. So across the gamut,
Yes.
we got comic books.
Mhm.
We got movies.
We do comic book movies. I mean,
Comic
that's
book
what-
movies, video games.
Yes.
We both love video games, ranging from Mario Kart to shoot. What are you playing now?
I'm gonna see playing Fall Guys because that's free to play now.
Okay.
That's like my battle royale game of choice.
Okay.
Cuphead is the one I play because
I never actually played Cuphead.
Ooh, if you like, it's like think of cartoonist Contra in terms of difficulty, but it has that 1940s, 30s.
Okay.
So it softens the blow just a little bit, or it frustrates you even more. You'll have to play it for yourself and see what you think. Um, but amongst all the current gen stuff, everything in between, I gotta go back to Mega Man X as my favorite video game.
So good. So good.
Um,
So good.
Everything about it, the soundtrack is
Yep.
amazing. That's actually one I can throw on a loop, like while I'm working. Like I can go through the soundtrack. And don't get me wrong, there's other ones like Mario's got a great soundtrack,
Mhm.
Zelda, PlayStation games,
Ocarina of Time.
Ocarina of Time. But for me, that's the one that clicks. I'm just like that for me. I know where that stage is without having to look at the track. I know exactly where the key moments of that music are.
Mhm.
The story, it's not the heaviest thing in the world, but what they did do is they took classic Mega Man, as you know from the NES days, and excuse me, they put them further into the future
Mhm.
with now instead of dealing with like wacky robots. Funny enough, it was kind of a more serious turn,
Mhm.
even though your main bosses in that game are based off of animals. But to me, that was kind of cooler
Yeah.
because it reminded me a little bit of Beast Wars
Yes.
with Transformers.
Oh, I love Beast
Which is
Wars.
great. I gotta find where that's streaming. It's gotta be streaming somewhere. But anyway, that's another tangent.
Yeah.
But just going back, so the game doesn't hold your hand and saying like this is what you can and can't do.
Yeah.
If you know Mega Man games like the classic series before, you'll get the gist. However, the extras they add to it, because now they gave you the ability to climb on walls. You have a charge shot now. You get as you could in the classic games, get these different abilities. You get them too in the game, but and rewards your exploration. But it's not like Castlevania style where it's like you have your 8 levels. You beat the 8 levels, then you beat I think it was 1 or 2. It was 3 levels up to the main boss.
Yeah.
and then that's the end of the story. So in itself, it is. You can choose though what levels you want to play.
Yeah.
That's the freedom to play. There's always one that we go to first, which is Chill Penguin, because that's where you get the speed shoes. Once you get the speed shoes, then you can pretty much zip your way through all the other levels.
Yeah.
Again, the story was just deep enough for a kid because when I was playing, I was like 6 or 7 at the time. So it's not a Shakespearean tale, but it's just enough to be like a sci-fi, like a sci-fi movie of the week kind of plot. But there's characters in there like his fan favorite Zero comes into the first time. The overall villain of the series, Sigma, makes his first appearance in that. There's even there's a nod to Star Wars, which one of the uh, main villains you fight in the game, who's he's not a sub boss, but Vile. If you guys look at Vile on, if you do Google search images on Vile Mega Man X, he is clearly inspired by Boba Fett, which makes it even more cool. There's even one he comes back in Mega Man X3, and he has the Shaw like Boba Fett has. I was like, well, if you didn't get it the first time, like this is more of your hint that this is who this guy is referencing. He even has like a little jetpack too. It's so not. So for me, that's one I can throw on any day of the week. I will speed run that game. I'll take it casually. I've gotten like anytime there's a collection of it, I've got it pretty much on that system. It's my chill game, my go-to game.
Oh man.
You can throw it on. I can beat it within. I can't. I'm not like a professional speedrunner at it, but I can beat that game well within like 45 minutes to an hour. But again, it's if I'm rushing. If I take my time, it's a game. Again, I could just play until the end, and I would just be. Again, there's been advancements in games on all consoles, all fronts. Yes, and they're spectacular leaps and bounds. But that's just one I keep coming back to, and I always have a smile on my face. And if I have a rough day and I just want a game that I can play, I will immediately just throw that on and just be like, okay, like everything's fine, we're good, and just love it. And you?
So I've got my favorite. What do they call it when it's like the runner up? There's a term.
Side runner up? Oh man,
It's like
silver medal, like
yeah.
uh,
So all right.
second.
So the runner up is Skyrim.
Hmm.
Because after you were saying all that stuff, so I was actually married to my wife on 11/11/11.
Oh, okay.
Skyrim came out on 11/11/11. I spent my bachelor party, quote unquote, standing in line at GameStop,
Oh, man.
buying Skyrim,
Oh, man.
playing it before actually technically the day of my wedding. So I've owned it for PS3, Xbox 360, every system that I've ever owned. I own Skyrim. So that's run up, and plus that game is still being played today, and that's 11 years old.
Did you get what the hell you remastered?
Yeah, because um, they added fishing and they added like the different skins to the weapons and stuff. I think it was. Yeah. Again, I bought it.
Yeah, of course.
So that's the runner up. My all time favorite is Metal Gear Solid. The story behind it was so in depth. It's more than just a stealth espionage. It goes into um, uh, mental awareness. It goes into um, loss. It goes into hope. It goes into fear. It plays on all the emotions, um, all while being a stealthy shooter. One of the greatest things, you can't do it in today's age because you don't have plug-in controllers, but this right here is the thing that solidified the game for me. Was when I got it, I was 13, 14 years old. And so it was for the original PlayStation, and I got home, I was playing it, and there was a boss called Psycho Mantis. And every time you would go to shoot him, he would jump, and so you could never shoot him. And then, like, after about 30 seconds, he would stop and be like, oh, you really like Jet Moto, don't you? You better stick to that game. And then it would go back to the fight. And you could not beat him. You could not beat him. So I went to, on a Wednesday night, went to youth group, and Luke was the guy who let me borrow it. I was like, I'm stuck on Psycho Mantis. I can't beat him because again, this is dial up internet. They're like gamecodes.cc was like the cheat codes,
Uh-huh.
and even that was hard to get to. And so I was like, I can't figure it out. And he goes, you have to unplug the controller from the first port and plug it into the second port so that he can't read your moves.
Uh-huh.
I was like, what? And he goes, yeah, he's actually reading your memory card. So he'll talk about you playing Madden. He'll talk about you playing all these different games because he's reading your memory card. You have to put it. So I remember, like, it finished. I ran home. I queued it up. I plugged it in a second and I beat him. And I was just like, this is one of the greatest things ever. You know, I mean,
And I don't think, I mean, someone's probably may have copied it at some point, but I don't think there's been something like that you had to do to just beat. And he's not even the main boss,
no, no.
which is even crazier because you would
Yeah.
think they'd save that for much later. They're like, no, we're gonna give you this roadblock.
Yeah. And then even with that, like, he was a man with mental health problems,
Mhm.
and he ends up actually helping you out after you defeat him because he realizes the bad that he was doing. It's like again, it was redemption.
Mhm.
You know, there's a lot of tales of redemption in this game. Metal Gear Solid for the PlayStation, highly recommend playing it.
It's also a very cinematic game because that was the first
Very,
time
yep.
where we had gotten cutscenes beforehand. But Hideo Kojima, who was the director of that game, it was a really cool experience because it was also almost a playable movie. You kind of like look at
Yes.
video games beforehand and be like, well, what are you guys talking about? Well, like I said, there was cutscenes there,
Mm-hmm.
but there was more emotion behind the story. There was more involved with
Mm-hmm.
characters, and then you would get cutscenes of it's stuff that even wasn't happening to you. Like there's other characters like in the same vicinity, but it was like going on this side while you were doing your thing,
Mm-hmm.
and that was really cool. For us, at least Western audiences, I think that was like the first. Like we had RPGs before, with
Yeah.
where it was scroll and text, but it was fine. Like, it was just like,
Yeah.
hey, you
Yeah.
know, this is what's going on in the story. But this was the first time that we'd had something like that,
Yeah.
where it felt like you were playing a movie.
Yep.
And kind of throwing you back to like the '80s action films, '80s actions espionage films
Yep.
too, which
Yep.
Hideo Kojima is definitely a great
Yeah.
lover of those. Also, a brilliant game director just in
Oh, so
general.
good.
And I can't wait to see what he does next.
Yeah.
All right, so that's us pretty
Yep.
much in a nutshell.
Yep.
So to even crank up a
Mm-hmm.
little bit more on our nerdiness, because as we all do, we love to theorize.
Yep.
And so what we are going to theorize now, Kevin Feige a few days ago, if no one knows, again, I'm going to assume that's five of you. It's a little higher, you never know.
There we
Names
go.
are hard to forget,
Yep.
you know,
Yep.
hard to remember. He is the overall director of the MCU, and he has stated that within the coming months, we're going to find out who the big
Mm-hmm.
bad of Phase 5 is going to be. Currently in the MCU, we are in Phase 4. This started since last year with the movies Black Widow. This was the first one going into MCU 4 or Phase 4. And for those of you not in the know-how, the MCU divided their movies instead of like, oh, here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with
Mm-hmm.
so many characters and the storyline coming together in Infinity War and Endgame. They split those sections of movies into phases. So what we're in right now with current movies and TV shows is Phase 4, which I think it sounded like I could be well. No, we're going to go into next year as well because next year will be the end of Phase 4, I believe. Because next year, well, here we should let you guys know what's slated. So for still this year, movie wise, we have a Thor: Love and Thunder, which is coming
Yep.
out within 2 weeks. Um, then following that, I want to say it's in November. We're going to have the sequel to Black Panther, which is Wakanda Forever. And then next year, let's see, who gets it first? They switched it around. I know we're getting Ant Man, the third Ant Man movie. We are also getting Guardians 3 next year.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that was another thing. For those of you that have a Disney Plus subscription, I think it's later this year. They're going to have a Guardians Christmas special. It's going to be a fun
Oh, I
little
didn't
time.
know this.
Oh, you didn't? Okay, hopefully it's going to be better than the Star Wars one. Ask your parents if they know what the Star Wars,
Yeah.
or if you have seen it, God bless you.
Yeah.
You were there. You were there in the dark times before the Empire. Well, no, the Empire was still going at that
Yeah.
point. But they're creating this Christmas special, that will link into Guardians 3.
Oh,
So
that's cool.
I think it'll be short. It's not going to be like they've done with other series where it's like episodes 1, 2. I think it's just one special. If I had to guess, they may shoot for an hour and a half, but like 45 minutes. But this will tie into Guardians 3. So definitely we'll definitely throw up something on that when the
Yeah.
time comes. But anyway, so I think it's going to end next year. Will be the end of Phase 4, and then I think they're shooting for next year is going to be the end of Phase 4, and then they'll go into Phase 5, which apparently everything that's tying up in here will lead into Phase 5. All that to say is we are going to throw out our theories on who the big bad of Phase 5 could be. We are going to do, in order to do this, there are going to be some spoilers here and there, just to illustrate our points. If you have yours ready, if not, then I
Yeah.
can. You have yours? Okay.
Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna let you shoot this one first.
So I think, I mean, don't get me wrong, they could be setting up for later on, but I feel like Loki perfectly set up Kang the Conqueror.
That is, yeah.
I mean, it's right there. Now, granted, they've they've thrown out other tidbits that it's like, okay, it could be this before, but I feel like they perfectly set it up with Loki, and especially with Wanda pretty much ending her again it's MCU, so they can always come back.
Yeah.
But I feel like with her going down, I feel like it has to be Kang. Uh, Kang or Skrulls, and they do Secret Invasion.
There is a Secret Invasion show that we are gonna get next year. Oh, that's also yeah. So we get Guardians 3, we get Ant-Man 3, and then we get the Marvels, which is going to be the sequel to Captain Marvel. And what's currently going on with if you guys are watching this Marvel show, that will lead into that movie. Um, Kang the Conqueror. For those who may not know, and I think this actually, he's a more obscure character, so there may
Yeah,
be more
yeah,
than a handful of. So basically, all who Kang the Conqueror is that he is just a human. I believe he's from the 24th century. He's in the future,
yeah.
and he has come back in the comic books basically to take over the Marvel universe, basically the timeline, the current timeline. The comic books are where the Avengers are, but where they are in MCU is basically after Infinity War Endgame.
Yeah.
And there's really no grand thing to him. He's actually, if you think about it, he's kind of just like an evil Iron Man. Like he's got
Yeah.
a futuristic suit. He's got drones. He's got people kind of like with super suits or cybernetic. But he himself doesn't have any superpowers. But he's just really smart.
Yeah.
As illustrated, if you guys have watched the Loki show. So that is a solid pick. I think that one holds a lot of weight to it that they could be going to. I know he will make his full movie appearance in the third Ant-Man movie, which is Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania.
Yeah.
That's the title of that film. And again, you're wearing your Ant-Man shirt, but I think
Yeah,
that
yeah.
thing's fully. Yeah, they're on point.
The
Um,
most underrated MCU movie.
I feel the way too. Now I'll admit I like the first one more than I do the second one.
Tenfold. Yes, yes,
Because
yes,
that first one was like the shrinking movie we hadn't had since Honey I Shrunk the Kids, where it's just a fun. It was a heist movie too,
Yes.
which made it just as much fun as shrinking heist film.
What was the guy? His best friend that he's like, oh, so check it out. So my sister's cousin was talking to this guy. Like that whole interchange again for cinematic stuff was just so brilliant. And yeah.
And to be fair, they were the funniest part. There's three. Yeah, it's him. Michael Pena is the actor.
Yes.
And
Yes.
there's Ti.
Yep.
And then the third one. Oh my gosh, because the third actor has been both Marvel and DC stuff. Because he was Polka Dot Man in the Suicide Squad.
That's right.
But
Yep.
in the Dark Knight, he was the cop, the fake cop, the Joker that Harvey identified.
Yeah.
And then he's also been he was in the Gotham show, and he was in some other MCU project, or he was in another Marvel. Maybe he was in another Marvel project. But either way, he's jumped back and forth. I feel bad. I don't know that guy's name.
Yeah.
So with your theory, King Conqueror, I think that's a solid way they would go about it. I'm gonna throw out one that I would want to see. Again, I don't have much merit in it other than stuff that'll be coming in the future. and this is more so again. I'm picking at stuff that really hasn't happened yet. It's kind of very lightly shadowed. I would love to see. It would be a different take because he wouldn't be a galactic villain, much like Galactus, or even you can kind of argue King the Conqueror
Hmm.
a little bit because he does like the interdimensional stuff.
Hmm.
I much you were wanting to see a good version of this character earlier. I want Doctor Doom to be the baddie.
I would love it. Yeah.
What I would love to see is someone for those not in the know how. Doctor Doom pretty much has the tech of Iron Man, not the magic like it depends on who you're writing.
Yeah,
But
I was
the
gonna say he's
magic
like a mix.
of
Yeah.
Doctor Strange. So imagine an evil Doctor Strange Iron Man in this like awesome suit.
Yeah. Armor.
Um,
But like medieval looking armor.
medieval
Yeah, not like
looking.
Iron Man was all teched out. Like
Right.
he looks like
Um,
he's ready for a joust.
yeah. But that's the funny thing is you look at this character and you're like, this guy like probably cosplays on the weekend. But he is just again intelligence. He's
Yeah.
probably one of the smarter. He is definitely he's in the top three of at least the smartest villains in
Oh
MCU
yeah.
or just in Marvel. But what I would love to see, and I'm pulling at threads here, is that again like we were saying with King the Conqueror, is just a human Iron Man kind of thing. Let's say for some reason he either gets beaten in the third quantum or in the third Ant Man movie and or Loki season two. Let's say that happens. So then you're like, wow, like I thought he
Yeah.
was going to be it. But then you have kind of the concept of this human that, like, especially what's happened in MCU history is like, it's seen now we're the small fries as compared to this huge galaxy full celestial
Yeah.
beings and just alien races in general. So he kind of comes about kind of like what they were wanting to do with the heroes in Civil War,
Yeah.
but instead of like combining humans, he's like, why should we feel threatened and weakened when we should be like? You kind of have this superior complex of like we should rule because everyone tries keeps coming to like take us
Yeah.
over. Like why
Yeah.
should we try to take over? Everyone else. So you could have this Doom character, and he, in the comics, he's already a political leader.
Hmm.
So you could have this kind of
He's the
political
ruler of
tie,
Latveria.
right?
Yeah.
A fictional country in the Marvel universe, but you could have him kind of do his political thing
Yeah.
in the MCU, going behind, registering all this stuff, and then maybe at some point, the Avengers they have to form a new group and stop him,
Hmm.
and then kind of show kind of the universe that like, hey, we're not all bad, like kind of like a Magneto thing to
Yeah.
mutants. It's like just because some mutants side with this dude, we're not all like him. But again, that's a tight thread. I think they're scheduling that movie not for next year, but the year after because they're still looking for a director.
Hmm.
They're still looking for a cast. Of course, we've all thrown out our fan favorites, and we got to see
Sure.
one of those in
Yeah.
Doctor Strange 2. It'd be wonderful if they came
So
back.
good.
Doctor Strange came back
With his wife.
with his wife as Sue Storm slash Invisible Woman.
Yeah.
That'd be great. That could lead into now again in their movie. You don't necessarily have to have it be them fighting Doom like the first thing.
Yeah.
Like you can make it like kind of like almost like an Incredibles thing, like have them fight the Mole Man, because that's what they did in the comics first. Was they fought this mole character, this underdweller type of characters, like so like weird and wacky, but kind of fits into Fantastic Four, like, where they do weird and wacky things, but there's a great family.
You could do MODOK.
You can do MODOK because I mean he's got that series on Hulu, but it's not like an official series in
Yeah.
the MCU. They kind of just let Patton Oswalt just like, which is fine. Like
Yeah.
he's another comic book lover and
Yep.
loves the material. Great that he kind of expanded on his role from Parks and Rec and is finally getting to do some hero supervillain love. But
So in this tale, we pan over the two sons of Tatooine. So good.
find his just search his name and then Parks and Rec and you will
Yeah.
see his big speech he made for the show, which is great.
Yeah.
A lot of it I think got touched on, didn't it? I want to say Book of Boba. I think there
Yes.
was, yeah,
Yes.
they
Yeah.
touched on
That,
some
that,
of the
yeah. The
stuff
beginning part. Yep.
and some of that. So again, look that up. But I think that's just what I would want
Yeah.
to see. And of course, you guys in the comment section, like, let us know what would you want to see in Phase
Mhm.
5. Do you
Absolutely.
think? Do you think you want to see Kang the Conqueror? Do you want to see Doctor? Do you want to see Galactus? That's another. Again, you could throw Fantastic Four in there. It's
Yeah.
fantastic. That's where he is. I believe that's where his introduction came in. Again, comic history at the moment is just all over the place. But yeah, I guess unless you have anything else that you want
No.
to see in Phase 5.
No, I mean, the thing you have to remember about Doctor Doom was even on the original Infinity Gauntlet series, he was one of the ones that were able to take out Thanos when he had the Infinity Gauntlet with the stones.
Right.
If it wasn't for Doctor Doom, they would have all lost.
Mm.
That's how strong he is. So,
And in some instances, he's kind of become an anti, but to his own needs.
and
You know what I
anytime
mean?
he starts to skew that line, he
If
just
there's a plan in the background, be like, I'll side with you for a second. But,
yeah, pretty much he realized that if Thanos ran things, he was not going to be able to run things.
Yeah.
So yes, I will help you guys take out Thanos,
Uh-huh.
but as soon as it turns around,
Yep.
I will stab you in the back as quickly as possible.
Exactly.
So,
all right, well, look for that. Something we're gonna do for our show is we're gonna give homework assignment kids. It's summertime. You thought you were free, but it's fun
it's
summer
gonna be good
assignments.
ones. It's gonna be good ones.
So basically, what John and I have talked about, this is actually John's idea, was throwing something either totally obscure, it may be something you have seen or something I've seen but haven't. Maybe you haven't seen it in a minute, but just to watch it, and then we're gonna come back next week and we'll give our opinions on it. So, what is
No,
your?
no, no. Oh, you go first.
Oh, you want me to go first?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've held.
You've held yours. Okay, so I'm gonna give one too. So you can find this on Disney Plus. It's a Disney classic,
Okay.
but the one I recently watched it, um, Bed Knobs and Broomsticks,
Okay.
where you have Angela Lansbury. It's World War II, um, but it's her as a witch. Whereas like Mary Poppins, you never knew who Mary Poppins was. Like, was she an angel? They never like spelled it out for you. But no, there's clearly this one. So it's no, she kind of like Harry Potter. Like she's not like the official. She's like a in training kind of thing. But again, It's during World War II, and what's happened is that she has to be a caretaker for these kids who are over because it's London. Air raids are going on by Nazi forces during this time, so she takes these kids in because the government forces her to.
Not too many spoilers.
Okay, not too many, but I'm just giving you the general
Okay,
story,
okay.
and then I won't give you like where the title comes from. Well, you can guess broomsticks, but why a bed knob? I'll have to watch to find out.
Okay.
So if you think along the lines of Mary Poppins, it's think of it that way, but set to like World War II. That's all I'll leave that. All right, what do you got?
Okay. So,
Ah.
going obscure.
Oh,
Jim Carrey's in the movie
isn't it? Okay.
Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Ooh.
So,
Okay.
synopsis without ruining anything. If you could erase part of your memory about an individual, would you?
Mm.
That's pretty much the synopsis of it.
Okay.
Have you seen it?
I have seen it.
Okay.
I have seen it, but it has been a minute since I've seen it. I can tell you right now, I liked the movie for sure.
Okay.
So this won't be a hard watch. I don't know how you feel about mine.
So I remember Kevin Smith talking about yours.
Oh, okay.
So that's what I was always just kind of like,
Okay.
But now that you've thrown it out, I'm like, okay, no, I'll watch it.
You mentioned him. That's what actually got me to watch it. Because Kevin Smith mentioned it.
Okay.
I think we listened to the same thing.
Okay.
I think we listened to the same thing. I was like, oh, because it was one of those movies I never watched as a kid.
Yep.
I always see it at the video store, but I never got the chance to watch it. I was like, this just looks like a Mary Poppins ripoff. It's not. It's not a Mary Poppins ripoff by any means. It's a spelled separate story. Different characters entirely.
Yeah.
But with yours, that's what platform was yours?
I don't know. Hold on, entertain them for a minute.
Oh man, you're leaving it with the audience.
Yeah.
Oh, they're all leaving. Wait, they're not leaving.
Oh, they're not even there.
Wait, they got tomatoes. What are they doing with the tomatoes, John? Why does someone always bring tomatoes and lettuce to our speech? You know where that's from.
Wait, say that again?
Why is always someone bring tomatoes and lettuce to a speech? That's Batman Returns. It's Penguin. Like when
Oh, that's right.
Oh, that's actually a good Christmas movie too. Batman Returns.
Yes.
I always watch that. I always watch that at Christmas time. Is it a uplifting film? No, it is not. Is it entertaining? Yes, it is.
So it looks like it says Hulu premium subscription, Star subscription, Amazon. So it might be Stars.
Anyway, here. I think I'll. I've got Hulu. I've got Hulu popped up.
I think it's Stars.
Let's see. Because I remember, yeah, Hulu gets weird sometimes with what you can and can't watch without a separate thing. Let's see.
This is riveting.
Oh, we got to give the audience like where they're gonna watch it.
Oh, no, don't want the trailer. No, stop it.
Maybe I wanted the trailer. Okay. Well, you do. It is an add-on, but again, you can rent it.
Yeah, it's $4 on
Okay.
Amazon. You can. I didn't even go just watch the darn thing on YouTube.
I think, yeah, I think usually YouTube's a little bit cheaper if I remember a subscription, like or not a subscription, but a rental was like $2, and you get it for I think 48 hours. So, um, yeah, I definitely. It's been a minute since I've seen that.
It's really good. My my yeah. I want to talk about it next week.
Yeah, yeah.
So we'll leave it at that,
We'll leave
and
it.
then yeah, leave a comment to what you think of it, whether it's too far out there or you really just keep an open mind when you watch it. That's all I'm gonna say.
And I'll say the same thing with Knobs and Broomsticks. Like, did you like it as you rewatched it? Is it like not as great as you thought it was? Again, with both movies, just let us know. That's going to be your little homework. It's definitely my homework, so
Yeah,
we're
me too.
switching on each other. So when we come back next week, we'll give our thoughts on both movies, and we'll go on with the show from there. All right, well, heroes, this is the pilot episode. We hope to continue this for many, many more episodes to come.
Absolutely.
And we just appreciate you guys for watching, and we will see you next time.
See you guys.
Peace.